Evening, guys. I lost some people here. Evening, welcome to the Go Fish Weekly Wrap. Oh, there they are. The boys, Chad and Rich. Welcome to the show. These guys were supposed to have been on 2 weeks ago, but they got the last time they were supposed to come on, they got delayed at lunch. And they phoned me at about 8 o'clock telling me they were still at lunch. So you guys didn't have lunch today, luckily, eh?
No, just a bit of golf, bit of wine. Chad can't fish. He can't turn the reel. He can't launch the boat, and he can't play golf.
Okay, well, we'll get into that just now. But yeah, guys, thanks. Welcome. Thanks for joining us all the way from Gauteng. And how's things up there in the City of Gold? Is it a bit quiet on the fishing front, eh?
Yeah, so some of the guys are starting to do their bass fishing, a bit of fly fishing. Yeah, but we're watching the guys catching tuna. I had a nice phone call from a good old friend to say that Mozambique is looking good for this coming week. And yeah, unfortunately, work is busy and Chad is injured, and we're just not going. And Chad's got a lovely spot down on the south coast, and that's being renovated. So yeah, it's just wait and see, and hopefully some good fishing coming up soon that we're going to plan once his injury is healed, and what we're going to speak about later.
Yeah, well, it's an in between time of the year anyway, so at least it gives you a bit of time to recover, so you're ready and fired up for the summer season and the fishing down here. So yeah, let's just we'll crack into it. It's a couple of weeks ago we were covering a bit of safety, and we were telling a few stories. Kevin Tate was on, Brett Terioris and myself, and we were a bit of a laugh about what happened to us a few weeks previous, or a few months or weeks previously, depending on whose incident it was. And yeah, they're all quite sort of serious incidents, but obviously we walked away relatively unscathed, so we were able to have a laugh about it and learn some lessons from our mishaps. And that's the thing, is you know when things go wrong, they can go wrong very quickly and very badly. And if you're able to walk away from it and relatively unscathed and in one piece, Chad, not so much one piece, but you're able to send a message to other oaks can learn from it and can avoid those mistakes like that can easily happen without even blinking an eye, you know. So before we get into this, your story, Chad, your fingers are right, eh? They've managed to did you get it in an ice bucket, take it to the dock, and they popped it all back together like you check on the movies, or was it a successful op?
Where is
Chad, you there?
Chad's gone.
Okay, we lost Chad for a minute there. Maybe okay. So we'll jump back in with Chad as soon as he can reconnect with his mic.
Can you hear me?
You might push mute there.
Can you hear me, Brent?
Hello?
Oh.
Yeah, I can hear you, Rich. Chad,
Okay.
Hello, Chad.
So mate, yeah, Chad, you're online. No, he's really gone slow. Even his video looks down. So yeah, in brief, Chad lost part of his finger. So to be quite naughty with Chad, he's got a very short little V. Yeah, so it was a very rushed day. Chad, if you can hear and want to interject. So Chad launched at Port Edward and pushed in the boat. I think there was a little bit of water that flooded the boat, and there was a bit of hesitation when I look at the launch. And you know, an accident doesn't ever just happen. There are several factors. If you look at any air crash investigation, it starts from way before. And the take that I have from this little incident is preparation. Know the launch site very well. Possibly take people that are more experienced than you. You know, it doesn't matter what size boat it is and where you're launching from and what the conditions are, especially when it's a first boat that you are doing. Even no matter how much we all know, you've got to have somebody else that's got a calm head. And if I look at everything that happened, Chad took his wife and 2 children, and they had a good launch, but the boat was flooded. And then they went out to sea and they fished and they caught some nice fish. But I do believe, and this is my personal opinion, that Chad might have been rattled a little bit right from the get-go. He may disagree, but this is from an outside point of view. He then came back, they hit a sandbank, and he landed short of the beach. And we know that you don't ever want to stop a ski boat in the shore dumper. So things then started going wrong already there. And so he rushes up. He had a nice gentleman driving the vehicle. Again, Chad must say whether this happened or not. Chad, I believe, didn't brief the person who was driving the vehicle with how to operate the winch. So when Chad put his hand on the hook of the winch, this gentleman hit the winch button the wrong way. So it pulled his hand in and basically, and that's when it severed the finger. Now, the problem is as well is that the boat is short. It's being pounded by waves. There's pure panic. And if you break down a minute of that event, it must have felt like a lifetime to Chad, his wife, his 2 very, very young daughters, and the poor guy who had mistakenly winched in rather than letting it out. But Chad is of very calm mind. They had to now come out, open the bonnet, put the winch onto free spool, and then remove the hand and finger from basically the winch. So that is
so his hand was stuck in the
right inside. Well, his finger, but his other finger, as we kind of know, Chad, isn't in a great position either. And the photographs, it was pure black. The blackest ink, it doesn't even come close to that finger. And it could have been worse. That's what we're taking away from it. And to answer your very first question was that it doesn't happen like the movies. The problem is it wasn't a clear cut because it was a winch. So if it was severed fine, it's just jagged. It's just a piece. It's raw. And Chad, if you are online, just interject.
Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, Chad.
Yeah, sorry about that, man.
He's given his version of the story.
Of the story.
If you sort of heard it, and
I guess there's a first time.
You were just telling us.
There's a first time for everything. So it was the new boat. Everything was different. I've had the small little Indigo boat, so we were used to having that. The winch was on the actual trailer of the boat. Didn't really have to use the car winch. And so my friend David was there with me. Nick, my good mate Nick, he was there as well. And So, and normally my wife, she's very into it. She helps us, throw the boat into the water and we turn it, and then they come running along and everybody jumps on and off we go. And and David was there to help us. And so he was. So I said to David, look, won't you please just help, throw the boat in the water. Anyway, so threw the boat in the water. Everybody was on board and off we went, had a good launch. And coming back, I miscalculated a little bit. I think the boat is a bit too fast actually. So I hit the beach a little bit short. And then went running up to the beach, but I'd already phoned David and I said to him, please bring the car down, because he had the car keys. We jumped on and he went and parked the car when we actually launched. So so he brought the car down, and I went running up to the front, and obviously the boat was now short, so the waves are catching the back of the boat, which is not a good thing. And I just I ran up to basically the window and I said to him, push the button for the winch, and I went running off to the front and I grabbed the winch. And in hindsight, you learn lessons as you go in life. You need to prep your crew, especially when things are different, everything's new. There's an in and out button, and and it's down the bottom, so you have to actually look to see where the in and out was. And unfortunately, he pushed the in button, and I was holding on to the winch, and it literally just pulled my hand straight in that little groove, like that big. So and then I pulled my hand back out again, and there was less finger there than what there was. We actually picked up the piece off the beach and gave it to my wife, and put it in a little tissue, thinking we could maybe stitch it back on again. So.
Oh, sure. So your wife's quite hardcore. Eh? She just grabbed it, stuffed it in the tissue. You shouldn't fall over.
Yeah, I think if there was some thread and some needle and that sort of stuff, she might have just sewed it on herself. But anyway,
the daughter, Chad's daughter, sorry, Chad, wasn't so hardcore. She started to throw tigers.
Yeah, so shame. Yeah, she actually wasn't feeling that well today. I think we gave her too many Stoogerons, so she was actually man down the whole morning. So because I'd actually got a nice beanbag for the the front of the boat that they could the kids could sort of sit on and that sort of stuff. And she was enjoying the beanbag a lot. So but once we hit the beach and I pulled my finger out and I saw what had actually happened, I couldn't actually believe it. Anyway, I ran over to the waves, washed my hand to get some of the blood and that sort of stuff off. Picked up the little piece of skin. My girls ran up and called the lifeguards. We got some bandage and bandaged it up. And what had actually happened is then the hook had actually the hook of the winch actually had gone right in. So we opened up the bonnet and David had to get his hand in there. So I was bandaging up my hand, looking back like this, going, waves are hitting the boat. And eventually he got the hook out, and then pulled the boat out of the water. We still had to get the everything back onto the boat, or the boat onto the trailer. So eventually did that there with my my finger getting involved and all the rest of it. So, but lessons learned. It's just one of those things. Accidents happen, but they can be avoided.
Yeah.
But the lesson out of this is certainly, for me, the first one is prep your crew, even though you what's name, because I'm normally in the car, doing the what's name. So, but because it was the new boat, we used the winch on the front of the car, not the one on the trailer like we always used to. So, so circumstances changed and everything like that. So, I mean, it just accidents happen. And then the second thing, which I now have for the front of my winch is that. So this could have saved my finger, which is just that little lanyard.
Yes.
That goes on the front of the winch. So the lesson is, have one of those. Have a little, even if it's a piece of rope or something, you just tie it on there so that you're holding that and pulling. Because I was looking down and what's name going, pulling, and my hand, it's a 9,500 pound winch. It's not gonna. My arm's not strong enough.
That is what that's for. And I mean, like that little bit of material there would have been enough for you to just move your hand out the way in time, and
it would have literally just slipped out, and everything would have been fine. 100%.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's like you say, it's about it's about prepping, and it's not always the big things that, you know, we can prep sort of like our sort of standard sort of procedures before we launch, but we often, like you say, you forget some of the little things, especially when it's like maybe a new vessel or a new launch site or something like that, or a new crew. And that's the key, eh? It's like whenever it's something new, you need to go over everything in even finer detail. So a new boat, a new crew, or a new launch site. So a new launch site, for example, you chat to the locals, and you go over with the locals, and you make sure that you know where everything is in the launch site. If it's a new crew, you chat with the crew and brief them and let them know what the plan is and how all the equipment works. And the same with a new boat, like you said, is you didn't quite sort of know the power on the boat, and you ended up beaching not quite in the place where you'd wanted to beach, because it was your first launch in the new boat, eh?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I mean, we've launched at Port Edward a couple of times before. So, you know, I wasn't Sam, but, you know, my wife's been on the beach with us plenty of times when we come down. You know, the kids have been with us and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's just, you know.
So this was all at Port Edward,
preparation. It's just, pardon? Yes, it was the launch at Port Edward, yeah. Yeah. So, and, you know, and David, you know, just taking nothing away from, yeah.
That is also, like, we're busy saying, we're talking about a new launch site, a new a boat, a new crew, but the launch site, you knew the launch site, you were used to it. But then on the flip side of that, it can actually add in a little bit of complacency as well into the whole equation. So you're used to the launch site, so your mindset is like, everything's good, and then you're forgetting about the other things. Whereas, like, you've got the new boat and the crew who don't know what they're doing. Or not that they don't know what they're doing, but they're not necessarily briefed in the equipment and what sort of is going to play out. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, taking nothing away from the poor guy who was in the car, David. You know, he's an accomplished skipper as well. He's done his stuff at Sodwana. Yeah. He's done many dive boats and that sort of stuff. So, you know, he's been in and out of the boating game as well. So, yeah, you just, you know, sometimes
the thing is, accidents can happen to the best of us. Accidents happen to the best people. So
and it happens so fast. Yeah. And and obviously when it's done, you go, oh damn, you know. And
that's what preparation. David hadn't operated the Amarok, hadn't been with Chad before, never done the launch before, etc., etc. You can go down through that checklist, almost have a written checklist. If we're talking about safety, I landed up with a brand new boat and was launching at Sinkwazi, and a grain of sand landed up in the hydraulics, and that was what happened. What between dropping off the boat, the tractor pushing us, I hadn't swung the steering wheel. Something very, very simple that should be checked. Have a little standard, brief everybody that's going to be involved, whether you're on the boat or when you're coming back. Like David didn't know, he was green to Chad's systems. Accomplished skipper, not a problem. Yeah. And that should have happened the night before. One of the things that I personally believe in is that every skipper, whether you from Joburg or the South Coast, North Coast, you name it, go down to the sea the day before, go in the morning and be at peace with the launch site. Because if you're rushing from Joburg and you're going to throw your boat in the very, very next day, I'm dead against that. Go and sit, go and watch, go and see what the locals are. Are they launching? Where are they launching? How they're coming back. That takes 24 hours basically of seeing, understanding, speaking, getting that information. The other little crazy thing that I'd like to quickly say is that on one of a very, very well-known boat maker was rushed a little bit, and we launched up at Pomen, only to find out during the day that they had connected the cables via the fuel containers. There was such a fire hazard, and they were open wires. and that was a shock to me, because the owner of the boat, a very well-known Durban lawyer at the time, he literally stripped his moor, and we looked at this safety issue, and again, it was all of a rush. Got it out of the factory, took it to Pomen, never put it on a dam, never ran through everything, never looked at his boat. We all assume that the people have done their checklists, but you have to do it. You have to be satisfied, and the onus is on you. The onus is on you.
100%, and that's the thing, is there is a rush often, and it's we're so eager to get on and do the sport we love. It could be the fact that you've come down from up country and you've only got a couple of days and everything's rushed, and that's often, nothing against you up country guys, but that's often what happens where there have been accidents, whereas guys, no, I'm just using it as an example. It's not that there's no accidents. Guys coming down, like for a quick weekend at Vardal, for example. There was an incident a few years back at Vardal where a guy drowned, where he had only a couple of days and the surf was up, and he should have just sat it out and launched the next day, and he rushed it and launched, and then things went bad. And like you say, you've got to be sort of meticulous about everything when it comes to boating, and especially the conditions we face here on our coast. I mean, it's not like you're like in a place like the States where you're launching out of a harbor and it's a nice flat launch. It's, we are facing tricky surf all the time, even on a relatively flat day. It's very, very, very tricky, and you have to make sure you're fully prepared, and that if you've got a new craft, you've tested it out, like you say, on the dam, you make sure everything's working, and just go over everything the night before. Go over everything in the morning. Make sure the motors are working. Make sure that everything's where it should be, and that you're comfortable with your craft and you're comfortable in your launch. And like Chad said, is things can happen so quickly, and then you got off relatively lightly, I guess, Chad. It could have been your whole hand, or even worse. It's a scary thing, and we do learn from these things, and hopefully other people can learn from what happens as well.
Are we allowed to bring up Chad's first boat and second launch and return? Is there time?
No, I don't think we want to do that. We don't have time for that. I think we run out of time.
Chad's pushed the mute button again.
Yeah, exactly.
But guys, when you obviously just coming down from getting back onto that topic of guys from up country coming down, and it is a bit of a factor, because you guys don't fish as often as us, and I think it's something important that guys who are coming down from up country must also remember, is not to get themselves like overexcited and feel that they, for a start, that they have to launch every day that they're down at the coast, no matter what the conditions, that they have to get on the water as quickly as possible. We feel for you guys, because it's it can be a sort of a bit of a tough call. Like, for example, if you've planned a weekend down and you get down to the coast and the weather's a bit of a write-off the whole weekend, and you've come all this way down, and you can't just sort of, you don't have the luxury of what we have, is you just to wait it out and go out the next weekend.
Exactly.
So it is.
I had to have a good laugh when I was watching your previous show with Kevin,
yes.
And he said, he hasn't, he gets the itchy bug, and he said, and he hasn't fished for 2 days. And I was like, shame, the poor guy, he hasn't fished for 2 days. So yeah, we set up in Joburg, and we itching, and we're massive fans of Go Fish, and we sit and watch on a Friday, when the weekend update comes and you guys are fishing and Byron's out there catching ambers and all sorts of nice big stuff, and he's sitting in Joburg, and
So we
and we
actually
just
part
want to
of the
come fishing.
problem.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And it's
So
also-
it was sardine run. We were coming down. We were fishing.
We touched on it last
Brendan?
at the time with Kevin as well, and it's also, if you rush, or if you get to the beach and everything's like not going well, you need to just take a couple of moments back, slow down, relax, let someone launch before you, sit down, actually go over everything again, because we actually went over this at that Zinkwazi. At the Zinkwazi weekend, where there was, I can't remember who it was also rushing, and Mick pulled him aside and said, "Listen, just relax, stop for a second, take a few moments out, go over everything again, because things were just going wrong. He was dropping stuff and dropping rods, and he was rushing around." Mick said, "You don't launch now, just wait, take a few moments out, set yourself again, and then get ready to go, because you launch and you go out in a rush, and you're gonna have some more accidents, and you set the tone for the day as well, and everything's a rush, and everything's a bit of a, you feel like you're behind on everything already, and then things can just escalate more and more and more. And if you're on the beach, and we said it before and we need to reiterate it again, if your mind's telling you, if you're saying to yourself, "Hey, I shouldn't be going," then pack up and go home. Go again the next day. If you're in doubt, don't go out.
Yeah. So Brendan, it's interesting that you say that us uptown or upcountry people don't necessarily fish so much, but I can tell you that in my own fishing club, which is Amatakulu, just on the north coast for people that don't know, very small club. A lot of them say, "We're going to fish when the weather's good," and the weekend comes, and then they go and watch the rugby or then they're doing a school event, or they're playing golf. Where Chad and I and our little crew that we have together, we're booking like a Tuesday to a Sunday at Vidal. No matter what comes, we obviously are hoping that the weather's always going to be good. But we are down at the sea and ready to fish. And the other thing that Chad and I have also learned is that Wind Guru, how it looks on the screen on the Tuesday, looks terrible, but if you are not at Vidal or one of the other fishing spots, you can't actually make that final call. You cannot make the call on Tuesday or Monday and say, "I'm not fishing because Wind Guru is looking terrible." You get down there, it's amazing that there's only a 4, 5, or 6 hour window, and you know that when Vidal gets a little bit messy, the fish also turn on. Vidal, when it's oily, when Vidal's oily, you're not going to get fish. That's the same with Zinkwazi, the same with many different places. I know on the south coast right now that there's a little bit of a reverse current. The water's a little bit green. So we're up to date with everything. But if you are not there, so we always say, no matter what, we're going to come. And we're there. And then
you are right there. I mean, I just having a little bit of a, wasn't really having a laugh at you upcountry guys. I was just saying, I feel for you that you can, like you say, is that Kev was saying, "Oh, I haven't fished for 2 days or whatever." But I mean, that is true though. I mean, just because you just get tired down.
You don't have a kayak, that's why.
Kids and this and that, and then you end up choosing the wrong day to go, and you break your ski in half or however things go. So I think the moral of the story is don't rush your fishing. Maybe we all need to just take a bit of time and just chill out and relax a bit. It's called fiscus, isn't it? We just we lose everything. You lose all the rationale when the fish are biting, or just the thought of the fish biting. You just want to go.
Brendan, I also don't think that people appreciate how much pressure and what a skipper has to do. You know, the skipper generally will own the vehicle. The skipper will generally own the boat. He has prepared the tackle. He knows his boat. He knows his vehicle. He knows how it runs, what the tire pressures should be, etc., etc. But the problem is that, you know, so I have a boat that is ideal for three gents. If I'm in Mozambique or one or two other places, I'll take four people on board. And I generally will only have somebody that's completely inexperienced. I'll only have one person. So let's say I'm fishing 3 up, including myself. I'll have myself. I'll take a first mate who's fished with me more than 5 times, and then what I call a greenhorn. That's also just important. You know, you've got to understand that it's a working deck. People forget that, you know, the person that's brand new to fishing, he takes out the lure, the rapi. Oh, geez, I've just remembered. Ask Chad. He got a rapi in his leg while fishing. Chad's actually got some interesting stories in the very short.
Was this all on the same day?
No, another time. And he was trying to fight a fish, and he had to land the fish with a treble in his leg. Yeah, but I'm digressing. So you know, like somebody will take a treble out of a fish and he'll put it behind him or on the coffin box, or another little thing. He's let's say you're doing bottom fishing and you've got the hell of a sharp filleting knife, and he puts it down on the coffin box where it's not meant to be, and then all of a sudden the reel starts screaming, and then everybody starts diving for a reel or a rod. You know, in that instant, you could have possibly screwed up somebody's life.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna hopefully he's not gonna. I know he lives in Australia now. His name's Larry Church. Hell of a nice gentleman. And we were up in, again, Pomen in Mozambique, and one of the sharpest filleting knives flew out into his calf. We are 14 to 18 k's offshore, and, you know, Pomen is so rural, and it stabbed him like a spear. And, you know, just those kind of incidences are easy. You know, we've all, and we normally should have a good knife sheath or a good safe place to put your knives away. It's just little things, but you do all the little things, and the big picture all comes together. Everybody's safe for the whole day. And the problem with the skipper that he has is that he's looking out for flotsam. He's looking out for things that have fallen off boats. He's making sure. My son Chad knows the story. We went out, we launched at Glenmore, and a chip packet that my son had thrown down. And it was just my son and I that onto my boat. It got into a bad position, and the water would always come into the boat but couldn't go out of the boat. We started to flood. A simple little thing like that.
Sure.
And, you know, all of a sudden you've got 3 rods or 4 rods out. Got to start up, you got to move, because when those swells, and we were on the 75 to 95 meter mark, those swells on that particular day were huge, and they were coming through the motor. And then the other thing that I completely had made a small mistake was that I made is that I didn't check the fuel when I got out there, because it was the current was shunting, and I couldn't start one of the motors. I couldn't understand. I had a almost brand new 4-stroke motors, and it wouldn't start. And then I suddenly go and check, and I've actually run out of fuel. So I couldn't get out of the situation of the boat basically flooding. But, you know, I have quite a few thousand hours. So I remain calm, but I would worry about a person that it's a new boat to them. What has happened? Why are you taking on the water? Where do you go and check, etc., etc.? How do you position your boats? Things like that all add up. And, you know, even with the amount of time that I have spent on the water and the amount of launches, I still feel like an amateur almost every time. Yes, I do I've lived here 27 years up in Joburg. I am a local as far as I'm concerned, a Zululander. But my fishing was done as crew when I lived at the coast. And yes, I had a great father and great other skippers that taught me. But you don't feel the onus and the pressure, etc., that then, or responsibility, not pressure, the responsibility once you start owning your own boat and everything else that has to now work nicely on a boat. Whether you're at anchor, Chad and I made a bad call one time on the south coast, and we threw the pick out in like almost 10 kilometers an hour current, and the boat, the little boat was skipping away, and you remember the rope, like almost singing to us. You remember, like a guitar. You know, that was a bloody learning curve for myself. You know, I can put a pick handle, a pick out at Matikulu and be fine. I know exactly that what depth it's going to be. The current's not so bad, and it was one of my first times that I was fishing on a small boat, and where we were hadn't calculated the current.
Yeah.
I think Richard makes a good point there. Just in terms, sorry, Brendan, just in terms of
no, carry on.
You know, my career starting in in boating was you know, coming, you know, enjoyed, you know, I used to see boats, and I used to, you know, never had a boat, never had been on a boat, went deep sea fishing once and absolutely hated it. It was just, you know, was seasick, you know, completely, and never had the luxury of, you know, so we actually then, I went and did my skippers, and I went and, you know, Chelly Beach with old Anton Getz, and, you know, they go through a couple of key points, but, you know, they also assume that you've got a boat, and, you know, you've been out, you've been with crew, where, you know, Richard was crew for many years, you know, with his dad and and then he became a skipper. So, yeah, you know, he had good, you know, like a good grounding, if you want to call it that, where, you know, I was up in Joburg, we bought the boat and and, you know, and here we go, we're going deep sea fishing, you know. It's, you know, that's, you know, you've done your skippers and away you go. You know, I never had that, you know, where there was crew and all that sort of stuff. And obviously Richard, you know, he's very accomplished skipper, you know, and I've learned a lot from him, you know, and we're still learning, you know, you know, you learn every single time you go out. So, you know, anybody who's getting into boating, you know, watching this, it's you got to go with other people who you know, you got to be a crew member.
That's a very good point. A very good point, because and like exactly like you say, is that guys will get a boat, they've always wanted a boat, or they've got the money to get a boat now, and they get themselves a boat, they do their skippers, and even if you hear stories of guys doing skippers that a lot of the there's a bit of a shortcut, but even the guys who do their skippers properly and do everything by the book, and then they go out to launch it, you still need to have had hours on the water, and the more time you're on the water, the more experienced you are. So a very good point to any guys who are listening, and to anyone who's getting a boat and they've got their skippers, is to take an experienced crew member with you, just to be your sort of right-hand man and guide you and let you skipper, but just to be there to just give you some advice and give you a hand if things do go wrong, and also just to sort of give you a bit of reassurance as well that you're with someone who's been there and done it a lot. It's a very good call to do, is to take out someone experienced with you when you're out skippering. So,
or even go with an experienced skipper. You know, just, you know, go and spend time, you know, with even if it takes you, you know, a good, you know, 5, 10, you know, 15 launches to go with. You know, I did my skippers at Chelly Beach with old Anton Getz. You know, rest in peace. He was a lovely guy. You know, and it felt like I was getting shat on the whole time, because it was my first time on a boat. It literally was. And off I went and did my 12 launches, and he said, yeah, I learned a lot, because I hadn't got into bad habits with, you know, the skippering, but we never learned how to, you know, hit the beach properly. I mean, the first time we actually hit the beach, I went flying on his boat. And, you know, so and trailing, putting it on, putting it on the boat, on the trailer, getting on the what's name, getting the vehicle in the correct position so your vehicle doesn't get stuck. Shelly, they've got that nice, what's the name over there, but you go to Vital and you've got that, some days you've got that huge steep, bank, and it's getting that knowledge that you need, to that is crucial. It is really, really crucial. And
there's a lot more to it than just what you learn in your skippers.
100%.
Example being is what happened to you, the use of a winch properly, and not just what happened to you there, and that it was actually kind of where I was looking to go with this, but we obviously started talking about other things, is that your winch safety is something that when I see guys on the beach sometimes, and it terrifies me just watching what some guys get up to. That when there's a boat being winched and they're standing right over the winch, and you know how quickly that it can snap and have a massive accident. You hear stories of these guys who've had their winch cable fly through their windscreen, take the whole top of their car off, and oaks are just standing around the winch cable. They don't. You should wrap it as well with a towel just to stop the if it does snap, to stop it springing out and whacking anyone. There's actually like there should actually be a part of your skipper's training, and there should be safety on the beach as well that guys just don't adhere to. So
that's something you'll get from.
Yeah, the Aussies have some very good stuff on YouTube on the 4x4 channels. You can't go wrong.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
So that is a good grounding. But I love the fact that Chad brought up how to position your vehicle and trailer, and how to actually anticipate when you're coming off the beach, that when you're actually still on the water, what angle of attack you're going to hit that beach. Because if you hit the beach perfectly and the beach is still at a slope, you've always got the center of gravity. So it doesn't matter whether it's a catch or not. And because it's so steep, it can always come on at a skew angle. Now you're putting a stress on the winch, you're possibly scratching the boat. And get stuck. Have we got
in danger?
Yeah. And knowing this, make sure that you're fishing.
Yeah.
To the front. Safety.
Boat shoes. Yeah.
How many times you step on trebles, or there's hooks and stuff lying around you? Just boat shoes. That I don't know why more
all things dropping on your feet.
Yeah.
No. It's whether it's going into your toe that somebody's left a rapi down, and you're moving and you're focusing on the reel that's screaming at the back, or you stand on a tiny little treble that somebody has cut off in haste and left it on the deck, or that accidental knife, or you drop something.
Yeah.
Mark Kirkland dropped his downrigger on his toe. Can you imagine how that must have felt?
Yeah.
So,
but his toe would have felt a bit like Chad's finger.
Yeah.
He probably just had all of his toe, but flatter.
I think it saved me, I can't tell you, countless times. and then the other thing, the second thing that I have on my boat is that you can basically, an individual can only fish basically with one rod. So if you are using a flick stick that's in your hand, and you've got a trap stick or a cooter stick, whatever you want to call it, your second rod or your third rod, it shouldn't be standing up. It shouldn't be standing up with tackle on it. It's got to be either clear and completely out the way, positioned away, because when rods and reels start screaming, people do not pay attention to the other rod.
No,
and that's my other
panic stations.
Yeah, it's panic stations. But cool. I think
we could. I mean, we're gonna have to wrap it up now, guys. But we could go on and on and on about various safety things, and maybe we'll chat a bit more on another wrap up on
the Go Fish Clinic.
I think it's important
see you at the Go Fish Clinic.
Yes, there you go. I think it's important that guys like take all these things on board, and no matter how experienced you are, you can always be learning, and you can also be forgetting things, and sometimes the more experienced you are, sometimes you get a bit complacent as well. So it's always good to just sort of reiterate things for the guys who know their stuff, and also just to remind the new guys of what to sort of look out for. So, Chad, thanks for sacrificing your finger for us, so we could all be safe.
Yeah, no problems. Yeah, I've got if you guys want to have a quick look, I am missing a piece of it, so just the front edge. But so now I've got two dud fingers on one hand, but it'll heal. So
we actually your screen's a little bit blurry, but maybe what we should do is we'll take a photo and stick it on our Instagram.
Yeah, 100%, no problem. It's starting to look like a finger again, so it'll
probably black out like there's Facebook. This content is too graphic. Click here.
All good.
Well, guys, thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Hopefully we'll see you again. Hopefully see on the water soon, because summer is coming.
Summer's coming quickly. Chad's going to be down soon. I'm hoping for an invite. I need to go fishing now because my busy season starts soon, and then we've got some tiger fishing planned, and then we'll be at Bardal, and then hopefully December we'll get some good fishing.
Lovely. All right, guys. Thanks again, and we'll catch up soon.
Good. Ciao.
All the best.
Cool.
Chad, give us one of these.
Yeah, no, my thumbs are fine, It's just one of those.
2 fingers. Peace out.
Peace out, boys.
Cheers, bud.
Cheers, man.